So we began yesterday, the Masechta, and we saw that Rosh Chodesh Nisan is Rosh Chodesh LeMalachim. We said what was that deciding? That was concerning shtaros, that they used to go ahead and date the shtar to go ahead and make sure that the shtar was not predated. They were dated based upon the reign of the king. The reign of the king was ascertained by Nisan. So when a Nisan passed, that would be a year of a king. So whether it was Chav Tes Adar or the Aleph Nisan, it would be counted as a year. The Gemara wanted to know where do you know that from? So he brought a pasuk. Rabbi Yochanan brought a pasuk from Shlomo HaMelech. That Shlomo HaMelech was in the fourth year of his reign, 480 years after his Mitzrayim, and we made a hekesh between Yitzias Mitzrayim and the reign. Just like Yitzias Mitzrayim was in Nisan, so too the reign of Shlomo began in Nisan. The Gemara asked, how do you know it's Yitzias Mitzrayim? Maybe it's something else. The Gemara had a cheshbon that we went through, and we said that basically from we said we know it from Aaron, that Aaron was Nifta, and then we had Mishnah Torah, and if it would have been that they count from Tishrei, then it would have been an extra year, right? So since obviously it wasn't from after Shvat, going from after Shvat, right? Tishrei would have passed, right? So there obviously it was the same year. How do you know it's the same year? We had Gzera Shava 2020, Gzera Shava 4040. So that's where we're up to on the bottom of the page. The one wanted to know, how in fact do you know that the Maisa with Aaron took place before Mishnah Torah? Maybe Mishnah Torah took place before what? Before Aaron. That's the question. Again, the point we knew that by a show of hands, how many people want to get rid of these kids? Raise your hand. No. I'm just going to tell Aaron show this. It's not an Eitzah. It's not. It can't have this.
Why are they here?
Yes, Mr. Schoenfeld. No, better yet, take a video, learn a video, and hear what's going on, and send it to him. Don't text him. Send it to him, Aaron.
But tell the rabbi wants to know.
No. That's not what I told him to. That's.
Stop the recording, Rabbi.
I am stopping.
Well, now you're laughing.
Okay, what? Anyway.
Please have the recording on for the rest of the.
Okay, and that note. Okay, so guys, so one more time. We ascertain that the death of Aaron and Av took place before Mishnah Torah. So if you would have had Tishrei, it would have counted as what, as another year. It would have been 41. But since it's the same year, it must be Nisan. But Nisan took place before Av and Shvat, so it didn't pass the Nisan by. The Gemara wants to know, how do you know the fact that the Maisa of Av, of a death of Aaron, took place before Mishnah Torah? So that's where we're up to. We're up to Beis Amid Beis at the bottom. The Maisa the Av Kodem, Dilma Maisa the Shvat Kodem. Maybe Mishnah Torah came before, and therefore, and Nisan therefore was in between. What was in between? So it's not possible to say that. It says Achrei Akosu Esichon. Said after he came back from the smiting Sichon, and when Aaron died, Sichon was still alive. So in other words, Mishnah Torah took place, guys, right after smiting Sichon, right? After smiting Sichon, and Sichon was after the death of Aaron. So if Mishnah Torah took place with the death of Sichon, and Aaron died before Sichon, so it can't be that Mishnah Torah took place before Aaron. It can't be. It has to be that Aaron took place before. The pasuk says, "By Yishma Kanani Melech Arad," and the Kanani heard, the Melech Arad heard, Mashmu Shama. What did he hear? Shama Shemes Aaron. He heard that Aaron died. V'niskalku Anania covered, and the Anania covered left when the petir of Aaron, and the Anania covered left. Ukesavar. And they thought, they took it as a sign to go ahead and do war with Yisrael. How do you have an allusion to that? And all the Ada saw, all the people saw, that Avin had been nifta. Don't say they saw, and they were scared. In other words, you read the pasuk like this, guys. Vayiru kol ha'eda, vayirau kol ha'eda. You know why they were scared? Ki gava Aaron, because Aaron died, and the word ki we're teaching as because. That was the siba. That was the cause of their fear, because it was the death of Aaron. As Reish Lakish darshan, some Reish Lakish, ki mishamish bedal l'shaynes. The word ki can be used one of four ways. It can be used as if, Dilma, perhaps, Ella, only, and the ha, because. Long Rashi's over here showing different places where how each one is used. But Hodul Hashem, Ki Tov, Ki Li'olam Chazdo. Why do we thank Hashem? Ki, because Li'olam Chazdo. In other words, Ki, and over here we're going to dash Ki because as the same way. For you row Kol Ha'eda, they were all scared. You know why? Ki, because Aaron was died. Right? Fred the Gemara Hasam Kanan Hacha Sichaim. It says Vayishma Kanani Melech Arad. How do you get that to be Sichaim? Guys, how do you get it to be Sichaim? There's no mention of Sichaim. It simply said that the Kanani Melech Arad died. So where's Sichaim? And for the Gemara, Tanu Sichaim Hu Arad, Hu Kanan. So for the moment, it's Sichaim, it's Arad, and Kanan. They're all synonymous. Sichaim, why was he called Sichaim? Shedaimel Sayach Bamidbar. It was like a wild colt in the Midbar. Kanan, Hashem Al Chusay, that was the name of his Malchus. Umash Shemoy, what was his real name? Arad Shemoy. His name was Arad. Ikadi Amri, Arad, Shedaimel Arvad. He was called Arad because he was similar to a wild mule, the Arvad Bamidbar. Kanan, Hashem Al Chusay, Umash Shemoy, Sichain Shemoy. So we have L'chaira, a Raya, Brura, clearly that Aaron's Patira and Av transpired before Mishnah Torah, and therefore it can't be that Nisan. That Nisan is the Malchus. It has to be right. It can't be Tishrei. It has to be Nisan. Okay, right. Now there's an interesting thesis over here. Just to digress for a few minutes. It says Vayishma Kanani Melech Arad the Medrash Amrinon the Hainu Amalek. That's Amalek, and he brings in it. Now the Rashi and Chumash guys tells us a fascinating Indian over here on this pasuk. Vayishma Kanani Melech Arad, he brings the pasuk Yoshvei HaNegev, and it says those people who dwelled in the Negev. Rashi and the Chumash tells us, listen to this: Ze Amalek. It was not Canaan, it was Amalek. Shneimar Amalek Yoshev Beretz HaNegev. Amalek was living in Eretz HaNegev, right? V'shona esh l'shoinai, and they changed their language. L'darber b'loshen Canaan, to speak Canaanese, to speak Canaan. Kidei sheyu Yisrael mispalim lakadosh baruch hu loses Canaanim biyadam, that Bnei Yisrael would go ahead and daven that the Canaanim should be living of the hands. V'heim eina Canaanim. You know, Amalek wasn't just powerful people; they were. It's very funny. You find by Goliath. Goliath is the Gemara tells us that Goliath came in the morning and in the evening. He wanted to mevatel for Kriya Shema. He knows the schus of fighting al sichud the shame. And he wanted to mevatel that time. So the Canaanim, they came up with a plan, this Amalek. We'll go address as Canaanim. The Jews will have a misplaced tefillah. They'll daven for who? For Canaanim. And they won't be successful. So, Ro Yisrael Levay Shehem, Kilvushe Amalekim. He saw the way they were dressed, and they were dressed like Amalekim. U'Lashonim Lashon Canaan, but they were speaking Canaan. So, what did they do? I'm going to spell Stam. Let's Stam, the Jewish cup. We'll daven Stam, and that's what happened. So Rashi tells you exactly what occurred over here. There's an Indian of Khan. So very interesting, beautiful.
They weren't that smart, they didn't change their clothing.
Rabbi Stern, we also see the Goyim were machshiv and were aware of the koach of a Jewish tefillah. They did this.
That's what I said. But Goliath knew that he had been from Kriya Shema to all be successful. So I'll share with you a beautiful drasha. I love this sefer. Shiar Mitzvah Ba'alach. I highly recommend it. A wonderful drasha. So it says in Kuf Yud Gimel Masech Shabbos, it says the Chibaratay Miyasis L'Rachecha. You know you say it, but if you say the pasuk, right, the pasuk in Yeshaya in Tashav Mishavos Raglecha Asus Chavetzecha B'Yom Kachi Kros L'Shabbos Oynig. And the chibaratoi miyasis d'archech. What's the chibaratoi? He says the chibaratoi is your clothing. The mechabit shavim with your clothing. So the Gemara says, "Shlo yehi avushcha shel Shabbos kam avusha shel chol." Your clothing on Shabbos should not be the same as chol. You learn from the puzzle. So your clothing is called your covet. Your clothing is called your covet. So it says that once the darshan, the Shemit Simulach, beautiful drasha. What happened by the death of Aaron? What did Kadosh Baruch Hu tell him? Go up, upashet es begodav, and he took off what? His clothing. Your clothing is your covet, right? And the male the nani covet left. When Aaron lost his covet, he lost his clothing. So male the nani covet left. Beautiful drasha, and that's why they thought they would be able to. They took it as a sign that this is a good time to attack, and unfortunately they were wrong. Fortunately for us, they were wrong. It's a very interesting drasha, a very nice to hear over here. Says the Gemara Bite. Okay, now, so guys, so your raya is from where? Your raya is from Aaron, from Av to Shvat, right? From Av to Shvat. Good. So now, could it be any other that it couldn't be? It has a Nisan, right? Nisan. So now, the Ema Iyar, anything before Av, guys, L'chayra could have been Rosh Chodesh, right? Your raya that Nisan is the cutoff point, not Tishrei, right? Nisan's the cutoff point, not Tishrei. Yeah. What's your raya from Av to Shvat? So it had to be Nisan. So anything between Nisan and actually even Adar, Nisan, Iyar, and Nisan, Tammuz could all be what? The possibility to be Rosh Chodesh. Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah. The Ema Rosh Hashanah Iyar. Let's say it's the second month. You're saying it's Nisan. Why don't you say it's Iyar? Says you can't say that. It was in the first month Nisan, in the second year of L'chayra Yitzias Mitzrayim, on the first day of the month, that the Mishkan went up. Uksiv Vayhi b'Shana Hashenis v'Chodesh Hasheni, and this is speaking about going into Eretz Yisrael. It was in the second year, in the second month Iyar, Ola Anan, the Anan went up, Me'al Mishkan Eidos. Now, Midikoi ben Nisan, by Hakamas Mishkan, you're standing in Nisan, the Koirele Shana Shenis, the Kori be Iyar, and then it says regarding going to Eretz Yisrael, it says in Iyar, the Koirele Shana, right? Sheni, Machal the Rosh Hashanah Laviyahu. In other words, if Rosh Hashanah was Iyar, it should be the third year, not the second year. You're going a 2-month interval. You're going from the Mishkan to going to Eretz Yisrael. The Mishkan clearly says it was the second year. It was the second year. And now, if you're telling me that Iyar should be the third year, and it says this, it doesn't say that. So obviously it can't be Iyar. So now again, as long as it's for Av, again it's good. Nisan, we said it's Nisan. How do you know it's Nisan? Maybe it's Iyar, maybe it's Sivan. This of course is Matan Torah, guys. Kabbalah Torah. The third month, of course, that's Sivan. Now, v'imisa b'chodesh hashlishi b'shona hashenis lotzeis miboile. Right? It should say what? It should say the second year. If you guys, it says b'chodesh hashlishi lotzeis miboile. So what year is it? First year. If it's not designated, guys, it's the first year. It was, guys, Taich, in the third month that we left Mitzrayim. That's the first year, right? But 1 second. If Sivan is Rosh Hashanah, and now you're involved Sivan, it should be the second year. But it doesn't say the second year. So it can't be Rosh Hashanah, it can't be Sivan. So you passled Iyar and you passled Sivan. From Isa, and if you're going to tell me Rosh Chodesh Sivan is Rosh Hashanah, not Rosh Chodesh, is Rosh Hashanah for Malachim, in the second year. The Ema Adar. Adar is, again, the Mishnah Torah was in Shvat. So you just need the from Av to Shvat. Adar took place. You said Nisan. It could be Av. Because that would be in the same year. It will be the same year. If Rosh Chodesh for Kings, guys, was in Adar, it still would be in the same year. So the Chayra, you have a good kasha. In other words, this kasha pashtus slugs up the Rabbi Yochanan's raya from Shlomo HaMelech to Yitzias Mitzrayim, and the raya that he wanted to bring from Aaron, right, is not a great raya. It's not a great raya because according to this raya, it could be the possibility Rosh Chodesh could be Tammuz, Rosh Chodesh could be Av, and it could be Adar. Ella lashon charata. Ella always lashon charata. Ella Amar Rebbe Lazar mehacha. We're going to learn it out from here. We're going to learn it out from here. But where's here? It says Vayachal libnois b'chodesh hasheni, and they began to build the Beis Hamikdash, the second bias. Vayachal libnois b'chodesh hasheni, b'sheni. Excuse me, I said the first bias. They began to build b'chodesh hasheni, the second month, which is what? Iyar. B'sheni. No. B'shnas arba malchusai, in the 4th year of his reign. So that little second sheni is a little ambiguous, correct? We don't know what that is. Guys, we don't know what that is. We just said Shlomo began building in the second month, in the 4th year of his reign, Basheni. It just says a Basheni. We don't know what that ambiguous Basheni is. My Sheni, Lav Sheni Liyareach, Shemona L'Malchusai. Is it not the second month from when they anoint the king? So, by Yochel, they began Libnois to build B'chodesh Hasheni in Iyar, B'sheni in the second month that is after you inaugurate a king, you count, which is Nisan. Saying the second month after you inaugurate a king, which is Nisan. Good?
Same thing. So it's not-
No. It's the same thing.
Shani means Iyar, now the second month after Nisan, which is Iyar again.
We're not saying that. We're saying that Vayachal libnois b'chodesh hasheni, the second month, B'sheni meaning in the second month of after you anoint the king. So when do you anoint a king? Nisan. That's the raya. That's the raya. So it is. But it's telling you the different idea. It's not telling you it's not telling you necessarily ER. It happens to be the second month after you anoint a king. What? Right. Now, my sheni, lav sheni liyareach shamonech b'malchusai, the second month that what you anoint the king. Maskal Ravina, the aim of sheni b'chaydish, maybe it's the second day of the month. Maybe second day of the month. It says in Cain, sheni b'chaydish behed yavik sibbe. You would have said openly. We said all the time, guys, we say in the Torah, we say, look at Rashi on the right side, kidichsiv b'kam mekaymis, be'echel l'chaydish, uksiv b'shnas ashlishus, be'echel l'chaydish. In other words, we'll say this, b'sheni la'chaydish. You would add the word la'chaydish. That's, in other words, the script that's usually used, you would say the word b'chaydish. Ve'ema b'sheni b'shabbos, it's a Monday. How do you know when it's the second month, you know, the king? Maybe it means Monday. It says, we don't find it. We never find it written. You don't find the day written. For oid, makish sheni basul sheni kama. We make a hekesh between the second sheni and the first sheni. Ma sheni kama is chaydesh, where it says openly the second month. Av sheni basul, it must be the second month after something. It must be the second month after anointing the king. Sit there a while.
I just reminded them that there's people down there. So
It's not. I don't think it's going to work. What does that mean?
we'll talk later.
Okay. Tanya Kabasei Reb Yochanan. We have a brisa that's a raya to Reb Yochanan. We have a brisa that, now, guys. This is very funny. We slugged up Reb Yochanan. Guys, we slugged up Reb Yochanan. Tanya Kabasei means you have a raya. So Taisus brings that each one needs each other. So in other words, we're going to bring in the whole brisa, but it doesn't mean to exclude Rebbe Elazar's din from the raya that he's building from building the Beis Hamikdash, right? It doesn't preclude that. How do you know she'ein moinem lehem malachim elam minisin shnemar vayhi b'shmoinim shana ba'arba mea shana latzis bnei Yisrael me'eretz Yisraelim. So again, I'm going through quickly, guys. These are the same pasuk. This is what we said yesterday. We made the hekesh, right? We made the hekesh in Yitzias Mitzrayim and the reigning of Shlomo. Just like Yitzias Mitzrayim was in Nisan, the reign of Shlomo began in Nisan. Uksiv vayal Aaron hakohen al har al pi Hashem. Uksiv vayibar mishona ba'eshtei mesachodesh. We're bringing him now. We're bringing in to prove that it can't be Tishrei because that's between it can't be between Av and Shvat. Uksiv achrei hakosu esichon. This is going to prove that Aaron came first. So therefore you have a raya that Aaron came first. That's Rebbe Lazar. So you need Rebbe Lazar as well. Okay. So we have a conclusion. We know that it's it's this, the month. The second is Rosh Chodesh Nisan is the month that we count kings from. We have the Rabbi Yochanan's raya from the Tzushtel Hekesh to Yitzias Mitzrayim, or we have what the limud from Vayachal Sheni we have of Rebbe Lazar. Now the Gemara says the following: Amrav Chisda Leishanu El Malchei Yisrael, Aval Malchei U'Masa'olam Mitishrei Maninan. So now the rest of the Gemara we're going to prove that the Goyim we count from Tishrei, but to understand the Gemara we have to fill you in a lot of facts. So I have a sheet. I have sheets over here for people who didn't get the right. Anyone who wants a hard copy, or you have it on your phone. Okay, if you want a hard copy, you have it on your phone. Just a little history. Okay, so we all know that Bnei Yisrael were in the Midbar 40 years, and the commentary to Yisrael, and 440 years after Yitzias Mitzrayim in the year 480, right? Shlomo builds the Beis Hamikdash. Beis Hamikdash stands for 410 years. We're familiar with that, and then Nebuchadnezzar Melech Bavel comes and destroys, and we're familiar that there are four shibudim that will take place. Four shibudim. Of course, the first one being Bavel, the second one being Parasum Madai, the third one being Yavan, and the fourth one being Edom, which we're still in. So tonight we're going to discuss the shibud of Parasum Madai. Who destroys the Babylonians? It was a combination of two groups. Two neighboring countries, Paras and Madai, literally the Persians and the Medes. They go ahead and they destroy the Bavel. They destroyed Bavel. They took over. So now, the first king that was there whose name is Daryavish, and he was called Daryavish HaMadai, the Mede, because there's going to be another Daryavish which we're going to meet. If you look on the chart, he ruled for 1 year. He's the top line. Daryavish HaMadai Kaivish Bavel. He captures Bavel. In the year 3389, his malchus lasted 1 year. The next king of Paras was Kairish, or we call him in English Cyrus the Great, and he was a big guy of Yisrael Samad. He gave us permission to rebuild the bias. He gave us permission to rebuild the bias, and we did it. From the year 3390 for 2 years. We rebuilt it, and came along a person you may have heard of, Achashverosh. He was the next king. And he said he was Mavatla. He stopped you from building it in the year 392. Right? Now we have the Ness of Purim that takes place in 3404. And then we have the Malchus of Daryavish, the son of Achashverosh Esther. Right? He permitted to go ahead. He permitted him to go ahead and rebuild the Beis Hamikdash. He rebuild Beis Hamikdash. When we built the Beis Hamikdash, Ezra and Nehemiah they didn't come back. They didn't come back. They were still what? They were still in Bavel. Where, no, well, again, not all the Jews came up. It was a very
It was just that came back.
no. Again, so
It wasn't sanctioned by.
so they didn't. Well, Nehemiah stayed with his Rebbe. His Rebbe was Baruch ben Neriah, was a Talmud of Yirmiyah. Gemara tells us he felt that was more important to stay with him. Nehemiah becomes the Sar Hamashka to the Yavish. He's kind of Sar Hamashka to the Yavish. Nehemiah hears about a terrible matzav in Eretz Yisrael. He asks permission to go up and help fortify. Even though the Beis Hamikdash was built, the people were depressed, the walls were down, the place was in desolation. Hearing that, he gets a message, what's going on. And he asks the Yavish permission to go up, and he gives him permission to go up. Okay, and those nakudas are very, very important for understanding the Gemara. The last thing, okay, if you look at the last three things, the Aliyas Nehemiah Libnei Chemes Yerushalayim, he goes up, and Nehemiah stays in Eretz Yisrael. Okay, so but those facts gives you a little surah of what's going on over here. It's a little surah of what exactly Paras Madai came along Yavan. So Paras Madai did not last that long, fellas. The whole. If you start in the year 3389 and to 442 is 53 years. 53 years is not such a long time for Paras Madai. Mamish nothing. Okay, let's see inside what we got. Okay, so now what's our quest? We want to prove. Again, what do we want to do? We want to prove that the reign of a Goyish king starts in Tishrei. In other words, very interesting. It's either Nisan or Tishrei. It might not go into something else. We're not going to prove the guys that it's Tishrei. We're going to prove it's not Nisan. So if you didn't prove it's not, why you pick Tishrei? Because you see Tishrei, you have Shemitah, the Yoivlos. You see that lot. Obviously, it's that's not some arbitrary day. You see, it's a day for something. So failure to go ahead and have them in Nisan, it's going to be Tishrei. That's the bottom place for on Gimel.
Why
What?
would you go on their date that they go by?
What do you mean?
It means the king, Asherish, he didn't go by our Jewish date when we consider him a
We don't care. We're writing a star in a Jewish star in a Jewish date based on Jewish dates. So now we're just writing a fact. Says the Gemara. Amrav Chisda, Lo Shanu Ela L'Malchei Yisrael. Tishrei, Rosh Chodesh Tishrei, Rosh Hashanah is Rosh Chodesh Tishrei, is Malchei Yisrael. Aval Malchei Umas Oilam Mi Tishrei Manina. We count from Tishrei. Shenemar. It says the pasuk says Divrei Nehemiah ben Chachai is the first pasuk in Nehemiah, and then again, guys, Nehemiah is the wine steward to Daryavish, who was the son, according to Tosfos, was the son of Esther and Achashverosh. Right. Divrei Nehemiah ben Chachai Vayihi b'Chodesh Kislev Shnas Esrim l'Chodesh V'Ani Yisi b'Shushan Abira. He writes these words in Shushan Abira. So what do we see from this pasuk, guys? It's in Kislev, and 20 years from the reign of Daryavish. I think we have that on the chart, guys. Right, 20 years of the reign of Daryavish. Okay. Now, Uksiv Vayihi b'Chodesh Nisan. It was in the Chodesh Nisan, and this is when he asked permission to go rebuild the walls. Okay, this is when he asked permission to go rebuild the walls. So, Shnas Esrim, it's the 20th year. LaArtach Sharta, to Artach Sharta. Artach Sharta, guys, is the equivalent of Paro. Just like Paro is to Mitzrayim, Artach Sharta is the title given to the Persian kings. So we have facts. Let's look at the two facts. The first fact is we know it's the 20th year. It doesn't say anything about who. He just says he was in Shushan Abira. Then it says in Chodesh Nisan. So you have from Kislev to Nisan, and he says the 20th year of the rule of Artach Sharta, and we're going to see that's the Yavish. Now, Midikoi bis Kislev, you're in Kislev. The Korule Shnas Esrim, the Koi bin Nisan, the Korule Shnas Esrim, Mechal the Rosh Hashanah Lav Nisanu. Because if you go from Kislev, guys, to Nisan, you would have passed Nisan. So it should be in the 21st year. Guys, Kislev, Nisan. If Nisan is the Rosh Hashanah, it should not be year 20, it should be year 21. Yet it's year 20. So it must be what? It must be in Tishrei. Because Tishrei is not between Kislev and Nisan. Mechal the Rosh Hashanah Lav Nisan who? Now, Bishlema, Heich Mefarish Dil Ashar Shtata. The second pasuk says it was the 20th year of Ashar Shtata. Don't say that quickly. Elahai Mimai Dil Archa Sharta. How do you know the first pasuk when Nehemiah is speaking his opening monologue? How do you know what it's speaking in the Achar Sharta? Dilma perhaps Leminyana Achrinahu. Maybe it's for something else. So I'm Rav Papa. This is why I had this last night, guys. So I'm Rav Papa. But it says Shnas Esrim L'Gezei Rishava. What does it say in the pasuk? It was in the 20th year, the first, and the second pasuk says 20th year, and the second pasuk it mentions. In the second pasuk it mentions Artach Sharta. So Afhacha, just like my Hossam in the second pasuk, it was Artach Sharta. Afhacha LaArtach Sharta. Umemai the Kislev Kodim. How do you know Maisa of Kislev came first? Dilma Maisa the Nisan Kodim. Maybe the Maisa of Nisan came first, and maybe the Maisa of Nisan came first. Now,
How does that help?
what?
How does that help?
If then you have Nisan. Then it wouldn't be. It'd be if the Maisa of Nisan took place, it'd be 20 years Kislev. So if Nisan took place, you wouldn't have a Nisan to pass, right?
Kislev that follows Nisan. So it'll be the same year. You're saying Nisan would be the next year.
We're saying the following. That's the kasha. If the Kislev follows Nisan, then a year wouldn't have passed. It'll be with all the 20th year, and that's a kasha. You have no proof that Rosh Hashanah for the Malchei Umas Olam is not what in Nisan. Then you would have a proof. Okay, now he's gonna, guys. This is the sequence of events. Nehemiah hears, guys. Nehemiah gets this bad report from a person named Hanani. He gets the report about the desolation of Yerushalayim. He then goes to the king. And asks permission. and therefore it's not. And that he got the news in Kislev, and he has permission in Nisan, right? So obviously it must be what? It must be that because it was the reverse order. It makes no sense. How can he possibly has permission if you know the state? It'll be reverse reasoning. Okay, I'm just going to go over here because. Okay, so says the Gemara. The Kislev koidim, Dilma Maisa the Nisan koidim. Perhaps the Maisa of Nisan came first, and guys, then it will be Nisan. Kislev follows it the same year, the 20th year, and it will be the same Rosh Hashanah for a Goyish king as a Jewish king. Says you can't possibly say that. The Tanya, the Varim Sha'ama Chanani L'Nechemya b'Kislev. The report that he got from Hanani regarding the sorry state of the Jews in Eretz Yisrael took place in Kislev. Amar Nechemya l'Melech b'Nisan. The Nechemya told to the king in Nisan. So obviously, what Kislev came before Nisan. Obviously, Nisan therefore can't be the Rosh Chodesh. The Varim Sha'ama Chanani L'Nechemya b'Kislev. What exactly was that? Shneimar is the pasuk. Divrei Nechemya ben Chachaya, vayi b'chodesh Kislev, shnas esim, v'ani yisi b'shushan abira, the beginning of the pasuk. Vayob Chanani and Me'achai. Chanani was one of my brothers. V'anoshim Yehuda, and he says who v'anoshim Yehuda ve'esh aleim ala Yehudim ayestim ala Yehudim ha'pleited that remained. Asher nishru min hashevi, that remained from the Shevi of Bavel, from the capital of Bavel, al Yerushalayim, and I asked them about the state of Yerushalayim. V'anishorim asher nishru min hashvi shom Medina bara gedola b'cherpa. Those that remained, they remained in the Medina Bara, Gedolah, Becherp, in not a good state. The Chemes Yushalayim miparetzes, and the Chemes Yushalayim they're battered down. Ushareha nitzasu beish, and its gates were ignited with fire. So these words, Amr Nechemya lemelech b'Nisan, those words that he heard in Kislev, he said in Nisan. So obviously, it can't be that Kislev came before Nisan, and Nisan therefore can't be what Rosh Hashanah for Malachei Umas Olam. Here's when he's giving over the message to the Yavish, to our Tachsharta. Again, he was the wine steward. You know what the wine steward had to do? He had to taste it and make sure it wasn't poison. But Sarah Mashka, that was his job, to taste it to make sure it's not poisoning the king. Right. So what happened? For I picked up the wine, I gave it to the king, and I was not in a good mood because of the news that I had heard, and my face was not one of happiness. 1 second, your face is not bad, and you're not sick, right? In other words, you want to kill me. You want to kill me. That's why, because guys, he didn't taste the wine because once he heard about the state of Yerushalayim, he made a neder Hananya not to taste. So if he didn't taste the wine and he looked depressed, so what did Atachshata think? Wants to kill him. It's Geschmack. He wanted to kill him. But Ira Harba Ma'id says Hananya, I was mamish petrified. The king's going to kill me. I said, HaMelech la'olam yichya. You should always live. Madua lo yera panai. Right? Why shouldn't my face be bad? The city, which is the base kvarim of my fathers, is desolate. And its gates are consumed by fire. What do you want? Let me go to the city and I'll rebuild it. The Melech was sitting and the Shegel, we'll see what it is tomorrow, was sitting next to him. How long are you going to be away? When are you coming back? It was good what I told him. I gave him Zman. So obviously it can't be that the Maisa of Nisan took place Kislev. It had to be Kislev before what? For Nisan. Because Kislev, he got the bad news. And in Nisan, he asked the Meshus. And the Mela, we know Nisan can't be Rosh Hashanah for kings because it wouldn't have been the 20th year. It will be the 21st year. So it must be by default, as we saw in Taisvis, it's got to be Tishrei. How are we doing, guys? A lot of talking, but a simple idea.
He was concerned about Naziris, but not the Yain Esef.
What?
He was concerned about
Why was the Yain Esef?
Because he touched the wine. There was all
Again, he's the wine steward. He's touching the wine.
No one else touched besides.
Again, he's the wine steward. That's not a problem. That's not a problem. And besides, they touch it It's not yayin nasa. It's only if they're in sakli rishon. That's called stam yainam, which is in those days weren't nasa. Those stam yainam wasn't nasa in those days. It was later on was the creed, but those days it wasn't nasa. Guys, so far you good? Okay, very good. Okay, so now Masiv Rabbi Yosef. Now the pasuk clearly said Masiv Rabbi Yosef the following: V'yoim esrim va'arba l'chodesh. They began rebuilding the Beis Hamikdash on the 24th day, which is what? Which is Elul. In the second year of the Yorish's reign. Good. So we have, what do we have? 24th day of which month? Elul, and the second year of the Yorish's reign. Uksiv, it says Bashvi in Tishrei. Be Esram ve'echad l'chaydesh, and Tishrei on the 21st l'chaydesh. V'im Isa, if you're going to tell me that Tishrei, if you're going to tell me that what? That Tishrei is what? B'shvi b'shnas gimel mi boile. It should be in the 7th of the 3rd. Because again, guys, you're going from Elul to Tishrei. You're telling me Tishrei is Rosh Chodesh, is Rosh Hashanah for kings. So why is it from base to base in the second year? It should be base to Gimel. As soon as it hits what? It hits Tishrei. It should be what? The third year. That's Kasha. So Amar Ravo, Kairish Melech Kasha Haya. Now, one second. Who? It says in the second year of whose reign? The Yavish. And what's the answer? Kairish Melech Kasha Haya. Kairish is dead a long time. Kairish was dead before Achashverosh. Achashverosh is not around anymore. You got this is his son 20 years later. We're calling him Kairish. So listen to this. Since he was a kasha, this person, so really it should be the 3rd year, but it's not. You know why? He was a kasha. So since he was a kasha, what are we going to count him as what? We're going to count him out as a Jew, and therefore we'll only count from Nisan. So to go from Elul to Tishrei, Taka is the same year. It's 2. Because this guy would count as 3. The beautiful Mishra Mitzvah, guys. Beautiful. Tosfos says, who was the Yavish? He was the child of Achashverosh and Esther. Right? So what's the halacha? The Gemara in Yevamah says that Agoy Haba al Bas Yisrael Avlad Kasha. So that's why I didn't say Melech Toiv. That's why I didn't say Melech Toiv, that he was a good king. It says Melech Kasha. It's giving a simon on his kashrus as what? As a Yid. There's a Yid, which is right now it's good, but tomorrow it's not going to be so good. Anyway, so bottom line is that's why I use the Melech Kasha. So guys, good. Let's recap. Guys, wake up. Let's wake up and recap. Wake up and recap. This is what we saw so far this evening. We ascertained without a shadow of a doubt that Malachei Yisrael is Rosh Hashanah is Nisan. We're now saying that Malachei Umas Olam is Tishrei, not Nisan. Good. We proved that. We proved that from what? From Nehemiah. How do we prove from Nehemiah? Nehemiah goes from Kislev to Av. That means Nisan goes in between, and we're still calling it the 20th year of his reign. If Nisan was the Rosh Hashanah, it should be the 21st year of his reign when it comes to what? To Av. When it comes to Av, it should be the 21st year. It must be Tishrei, and that's why what? It's the same 20th year. That was the raya. We're asking a question. It says from Elul to Tishrei, it's still the second year of his reign. Says the Gemara, he was a Melech Kasha. So Melech Kasha, this particular king was different than any other king. Him we counted as a Yid, and therefore we counted him in Nisan. That was the teretz that we gave to the Kasha of Rabbi Yosef. Okay, Masav Rabbi Yosef, Chada. If you're going to tell me what that you count from Nisan for this guy, Dim King, Krasha Kroya Dodi, you're going to correct make a problem. The Chsiv, it says in Ezra, it says V'sheitzi Baisa Dino Ad Yoim Telasa LiYerach Adar Diu Shna Sheis LeMalchus the Yovish Malka. This is they finished building the Bayis Sheni, guys, right? Ezra leaves, right? They still the Bayis Sheni, and it says when in the 6th Malchus of the Yovish, in the 6th year of his reign. Vitanya Ba'isas Man Lishana Haba. That time, the year next, Ola Ezra Bavel, the Galusa Imoy. Ezra goes up from Bavel, and the Galus is with him. If you take a look at the chart, guys, you have count out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 5th box in the top. So from the bottom, it says Neshalma B'nias Abayis in the year 3412, which is the 6th year of Daryavish's reign. Then Ezra goes up. It says in the 7th year of Daryavish, in the 7th year of Daryavish's reign, right? Now, it took Ezra left in Adar. So if he left in Adar and he got there, he's going to get there in Nisan a year later, not Adar Nisan. So you would have 2 Nisans that pass by. If it's Tishrei, it's guys, we're going for year 6 to 7, right? It says openly 6 to 7, yeah? Now, if you leave in Adar and you can't show up, you show up a year later in Nisan, how many Nisans passed? 2. So it shouldn't be the 7th year of his reign. It should be the 8th year of his reign. He told me it's a kasha. If he's a regular guy, only 1 Tishrei passed. But if he's a Yid, then you have 2 Nisans passed. So you just created a problem. 6 to 7 worked if he was a guy. It doesn't work if he's a Yid. It doesn't work if you're going to judge him like a Jew. Says, have I read the Gemara? It should be the 8th, not the 7th. Mi dummy. Why do you tell me Kairish was kasha? Hasam Kairish hachad yavish. It doesn't say the pasuk is describing Kairish. It says he was describing the Yavish. It says, but Tanu Kairish hu Dayavish hu arta sata. It's the same person. Kairish, why is it called Kairish? Shemelach kasha haya. It's a play on the word Kairish. Ar shat sata al shem al chusay umashmai. And what was his real name? The Yavish Shemo. His real name was what? Was the Yavish. We call Malcolm Kasha, Yav Kasha. Was it Tishrei or what? Or Nisan? When he was a good guy, we judged him in Nisan. When he wasn't a good guy, then we judged him out in, not judge, we counted him out in from Tishrei. So Bez Hashem will pick it up here tomorrow.
That's so confusing. Wouldn't that mess up? You'd have to be writing Shtaros,